All right, everyone. Hopefully this was helpful. This is kind of really the last day I'm going to be talking about anything new. Before this is the last day I'm talking about anything new related to CSS before your project is due. At least, well, in terms of like coding, there's some other things we're going to talk about in terms of design, but it's not specifically related to HTML or CSS. Um, So you guys hopefully, like CSS inheritance and, understanding more about box model, specificity. So you guys should be I'm not assigning new homework, but I'm just want to remind you of the homework that you should be working on. You have your box model that was assigned on Monday. That is due not this Friday, but the Friday after next. That goes through the basics of box model with border padding, that kind of stuff, margins. You guys also I gave you guys a project or, some more advanced labs. Sorry, I got something in my eye here. Um, these advanced these labs are kind of, I will be giving you like a mock-up or a general design, and you guys are going to kind of reverse engineer it. Okay, so it's like, okay, here's this mock-up of what I want the web page to look like. How do we build this out of HTML and CSS? And so this particular one, build a basic web page. It's kind of a step-by-step process where it's like, okay, let's start by writing, we'll create a new document. We're going to create a root folder. We're going to add in the HTML. You'll be adding in images. Then you'll create a CSS document. How do you even know what colors and fonts to use? And we'll talk about like, well, you can, take a mock-up into Photoshop or Photopea or some sort of program and sample the colors and find out what the hexadecimal values of certain colors are, or how to look at what the fonts would even be and how do we translate that into, HTML and into HTML and CSS. So this is like in the end, you end up with a working web page that looks like the mock-up. Maybe not like 100%, but it's very close, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the idea of what you guys are doing. And this is kind of like a template, if you will, or the way to think about your upcoming project that's going to be happening in about 2 weeks. Okay. So, or 3 weeks from now. So you should be working on that. So today is the, 21st. Um, you guys have until not this Friday, but the Friday afterwards. Okay. Um, there's also build a flower web page. This is the same idea. It's just a little less hand holding where I'm going to give you guys a mock-up and you guys are going to work on it, sample it and come up with a design, write the HTML, use the mock-up as a reference for colors and typography and things like that. Um, you know, and create a web page that'll be due not next Monday, actually not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after next, which is the 7th. Okay. So those are just previous labs that you guys should be working on. The other thing, this gets into what we talked about today. I want you guys to create a story map. So the concept of a story map, like we talked about in class, is kind of setting up like an interaction. It's to view the interactions. It's like, okay, here, I don't know. Just gonna, and the idea is it's like, okay, here's where our story starts. And then maybe there's, we're on a desert island. And then, okay, well, people can either go to the beach or, people reading the story, or they can go to the mountains, you know. This is a divergent thing. And then something happens, right? Something happens within the story. And I'm not going to do an entire story map because we did that in class, but hopefully you get kind of the idea. I'm using Figma, but you can use any program you want. If you're a fan of Adobe Illustrator, or you want to use Photopea or Photoshop, you can even draw it on paper for all I care. The point is, it should look professional. People kind of say, like, what should it look like? And I'm like, the way I kind of describe it is, imagine I'm a client. I'm paying for this, right? You're trying to get the money out of me. Present this in a way that looks professional. Okay. Now, what does that mean? I mean, clean lines, good design, things that are clear. If you're going to hand draw it, nice, crisp lines, you know what I mean? Um, However you want to make it is up to you. Like I said, it's kind of, you can use any program you want. Just export it as something that's easy to understand and read. So like a JPEG, PDF, something like that. Um, I also want you guys to start collecting your content. Okay, the content is like this kind of goes back to your synopsis. It's not the actual coding, but it's like, okay, what are the actual images that are going to appear in your project? You know what I mean? Start getting them together. You can, go find them on Pexels or Pixabay. You can take your own photos if you want. That'd be great. I always like it when students do their own work when possible. You want to use AI, that's fine with me. I don't care for this particular project. Um, you can draw your own stuff, but I want you to start gathering the stuff, okay? So that when you actually get to the point where it's like, okay, now I got to start coding things. You don't have to like sit around and go, oh crap, I need a photo here, or I need this. And the same for the text. I want you to start writing out your text of like what's actually going to go on the web pages. There's people's jobs. They're called copywriters, although now with AI, who knows? But when I used to work at a school that was an advertising school, and there were copywriters, and your job was to write copy, aka what is the text that people are going to see? And thinking about like what is happening in your story? How are you going to describe it to people? What words do you want to use to invoke emotion or invoke interaction with people, right? So I like, I just want you guys to start writing it out. You don't, once again, it's like, I don't expect this to be a award-winning novel. You can always change stuff later on, so don't feel like you're married to this and you're not allowed to change anything. Same with the images. If you want to change your images later on, that's fine with me. I'm not holding you to it. This is really just me like getting you to think about and prepare stuff before the project is due. That's really all this really is. So, your story map and your images will be due the 7th. Okay, the 7th is the not this Friday or even Friday after that, but the 2 Fridays from now. So, um, oops, I don't know why. Oops, too many things. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the wrong day. So today is the 23rd. This will be due 2 Wednesdays from now. Okay, so the idea is that, and it's due at 9 a.m. because I want you guys to, talk about this in class. We'll do a quick little meet with other students and get ideas and that kind of stuff. Okay. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to talk with me. Okay. And by the way, if you're watching this before 9 a.m., we have class at 9 a.m. where I'll be going over story mapping and things like that.